Welcome back to CryptosRUs. I am George. We're all George. So obviously I'm still off site. My internet here is not good enough for me to stream, but I am recording this for you guys because I do think there's a very significant event that's happening tomorrow that we all need to pay attention to. Right now, Bitcoin is still holding strong above 30,000, 30,347. Overall, today isn't too bad, but we just got done forming a couple Bart Simpson patterns. Obviously, one going the downside and one going the upside, and now we had a miniature of that pattern once again, but still, we are heading up in the right direction. And it caught me by surprise that none other than Jim Cramer this morning said that fortunes can be made in crypto. There are still fortunes to be made. And he himself says he holds Ethereum, but not Bitcoin anymore. I don't know why. But he does remind people that there is one caveat, and that is when you're getting into crypto, there is a chance that it could go to zero. It's very speculative. But he believes there are fortunes to be made. I don't know what to think about this. On one hand, I do agree with them, but on the other hand, for Jim Cramer to be this bullish, I don't know. Are we supposed to counter trade that? But I did see that this morning. Thought that's interesting. Of course, Michael Saylor, of course, still Bitcoin bull. He went on CNBC on Squawk Box, basically said that he still believes long term Bitcoin is not going to zero, and that it's a different asset class, and how Congress and their recent crypto bill that was introduced is going to be very positive overall. Now, if you're looking at the bill, from what I saw, it puts a lot of emphasis on the CFTC rather than SEC, meaning that most altcoins would fall under CFTC because they are commodities. They are not actually securities. So I don't know how SEC is going to feel about that, but I think that's the right call. Bitcoin and Ethereum already deemed non-securities, so that's why the CFTC, they're the agency that's looking at them. And I think many other crypto projects out there, especially ones with a whole bunch of utility, they should also not be deemed as securities. So overall, I think that's the right call, but still very early. Now, what's this big event? What's this big event that's happening tomorrow? Okay. It has to do with the ECB and Christine Lagarde. We know that right now, all the focus on inflation has been in the U.S. with Jerome Powell, right, Federal Reserve, and how the Federal Reserve has been raising rates, and there will be more rate hikes coming up, and reducing its balance sheet. Now, the ECB and Lagarde has been very hesitant about that, but that's going to change. So tomorrow, it will be announced that the ECB is going to get off negative interest rate for the first time, and they will be raising rates by 50 basis points, at least. That's what it says according to this article. Now, Christine Lagarde, we have seen her be very hesitant because she feels like inflation in Europe is very different than the U.S. But if you're looking at just inflation overall, I mean, it's high everywhere. So the Eurozone inflation came out to be 8.1%, which is not far off from the U.S. Although there was a press conference she did recently where she said, well, if you exclude food and energy, the core inflation for the Eurozone is much lower than the U.S. Well, I mean, that may be true, but you can't just exclude food and energy, right? We all need food, and we all need energy to survive. So bottom line, I think this is something that we need to pay attention to, because now we have two major areas around the world that is doing what it can to fight inflation, right? So now with Europe also seeing rate hikes, and that could possibly bring, economic slowness, and of course, the war is still happening in Europe, right? So all these things add together, right? Are we going to see more volatility ahead? Are we going to see some countries enter recession? Well, It's unknown at this point. But why we need to pay attention to this and why we need to stick with Bitcoin is this. I mean, it's really simple, right? Bitcoin is the ultimate hedge against inflation, right? Bottom line, it is. Now, some naysayer will say, well, look at last year versus now. Bitcoin is down 12%. But even gold and S&P, they're both down. This last 6 months, this last year has been very hard on all assets. But when in doubt, zoom out. Look at the performance from 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? Has gold come anywhere close? No. Has the S&P index come anywhere close? No. Has Tesla itself or ARK Invest or any other ETF or stock come anywhere close to Bitcoin's ROI or gains? No. So what does that mean? Bitcoin is the ultimate hedge against inflation. During short patches, during day-to-day, and week-to-week, there will be volatility. I've said that for a long, long time. But why we need to stick with Bitcoin is because it is the ultimate hedge against inflation, and it's the best asset class and best network that we have today. This is why, even though we have Europe and US and many other countries around the world, they're doing what they can to fight against inflation. How we can fight it is simply by buying and holding Bitcoin, right? Now, as for Bitcoin itself, well, there's a lot of predictions out there on where Bitcoin is going to go. Here's someone that says that Bitcoin is going to head to 34,000 next due to the 55 MA. So that's another point, but of course there's many other points above that. Right now people are still trying to predict where it's going to go, and that's why you have a lot of models like this. This one is a new one, taker buy sell ratio, basically measuring the ratio of the long and short volumes. And if you look at it, where we are now, this is the point where you want to go long, right? So there's a lot of models out there right now that's measuring Bitcoin, right? Measuring whether or not this is a bottom, measuring where it's going to go, right? Here's another one. If you look at just a simple indicator like RSI, we're in an oversold level, just like all these previous times when Bitcoin found a bottom and then went up on a tremendous run, right? We are at that point right now. Here's one just basically measuring, just measuring bear articles. How many bear articles there are, or bear market rallies, basically, these fake out rallies, basically, right? It just shows how many people are negative right now against Bitcoin, thinks that Bitcoin is in a bear market and will be here for quite some time. But look at the previous times. Whenever we have a spike in these kind of articles, that's when a bottom is also formed. And right now we're at an all-time high in terms of bear market articles. And finally, I want to show you guys this, just the number of accumulating addresses, all-time high. This is what really matters. The growing number of users on the network, the growing number of holders, the number of accumulators, right? Growing adoption. And that is what I'm focused on, and I believe everyone should be focusing on these things, the growing fundamentals, right? Because ultimately, this is the reason why Bitcoin is going to go higher, why it's the best hedge against inflation, and why it's the one asset that we don't want to give up on, all right? So that's it for this video. Smash the like, subscribe to the channel. Streaming from where I am is quite difficult. I am much in the middle of nowhere, so internet isn't the greatest, but I will continue to create these videos, so make sure you hit that notification bell to get notified, and I will see you guys later. All right, have a good one. Bye-bye.